Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Table Manners for Robots. As you will know by now, this is the second installment in our series called Unite for Small. This is a specific series that we put together to help small businesses recognize some of the challenges that they are facing, and we're working with experts to help small businesses solve some of these challenges. We try to keep things super basic. We're trying to help small businesses confront and handle the day-to-day challenges that we're all facing as we come out of one of the greatest business difficulties that any economy has ever faced. And in order for us to come out on the other side, we really do need to apply some degree of teamwork, collaboration, and a willingness to learn from those around us. So with that in mind, we were able to secure some really good speakers on today's show. Today, we're going to have a slight slant in the direction of using e-commerce to drive one's business. We're going to discuss a lot more about creating online ordering channels, whether you're B2C or B2B. It's still very relevant for us to be thinking a lot more along the lines of staying open 24/7 and ensuring that we do have the facility for a customer to obtain pricing and complete a transaction end-to-end online. Now, that does sound like a bit of a tall order, but that's why we have some experts on board to help guide us through this conversation. So with that in mind, instead of hazarding an attempt at introductions myself, we're going to go straight to our speakers. I'm very, very happy to announce two very successful businessmen. And let's start off with Sean. Sean, would you mind giving us a little bit more about your background?
Thanks, KG. So great to be here, great to be part of this Unite for Small movement. And I love sales. I've been involved in sales my entire life, from when I was young, renting my watch out to my friends during break time. And I really believe in selling what I can do or what can make a difference. I think my experience includes selling from door to door. Again, things I believe in. Sales and starting business units for established businesses and startups, including my own. I'm a technical person. I pride myself on that. So I think the key thing for me there is that I try and work towards being able to implement what it is that I sell. And then, I think being Cape Town born, I try and stick to my roots to an extent, but I absolutely love networking, sharing information and, picking up trends. So these are definitely things that make up Sean. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Sean, for that. I'm not sure whether there was a mild admission in there that Cape Town people don't like networking. I'm not sure, but let's move on to Lionel. Lionel, let's get a quick introduction and background into you.
Morning, KG. Hi, everyone. Essentially, I started off in the technical space and did a bit of an A+ diploma, and realized instead of trying to fix people's problems, I can better position and sell a solution. And this really started in 2007. So for the last 10 years, I've been in the software game. And my passion really lies in understanding how businesses and people make money. And that took me to ERP. I've always wanted to be part of a global operation. So Seidor Africa kind of made the most sense, and representing Business One as a product. And some personal victories of mine have been awarded SAP Business One Salesperson of Africa, and now getting the opportunity to lead a really charismatic and dynamic sales team at Seidor Africa, and really excited about what the future holds for us as a team.
That's awesome. So that's fantastic, Lionel. So before I move on to Sean with the same question, maybe while we're speaking to you, do you want to tell us what made you specialize in this specific area of technology, being ERP?
I think just the willingness and the understanding of businesses, and I really wanted to understand how people make money, and how businesses really generate a GP. That for me excites me, it intrigues me, and the exposure that I've been given thus far in ERP specifically it's really opened my eyes that there's an entrepreneurial spirit in South Africa that cannot be matched. People are making money from almost anything, and it keeps me going and it energizes me.
All right, so that's fantastic. What about you, Sean? What made you specialize in this area of technology?
So I've worked with a lot of companies. I think the thing for me is that I've seen a lot of decision making over time, and what frustrated me was seeing decisions made solely on instinct and feel, and not really on data. And I think I've done data analysis in my time, and as part of that, the more we are able to produce, accurate information, the better decisions are saw, and that really for me is a passion. So, for small business specifically, I think a lot of business owners, their gut comes to mind. The first thing they do is trust their gut. And over time, as they interact more with data, they might trust their gut a little bit less and more sort of a smart data decision. That's really the message.
Fantastic, and that makes a ton of sense. So folks, let's get into the meat of the conversation here. Let's talk about something that is very ripe and real to all of us on this call. And on that note, this is just a quick note to our attendees. Please note the style of the show. You have to participate and engage and become part of the questions. So we invite you to send your thoughts through either on the chat box, either on the Q&A box. You can do either. You can just, if you would like to speak, we can free up your microphone, but we prefer to just do it on the Q&A box for now. And send your questions through. I will ensure that I go through every single question and comment. So if you do put something forward, it will get some airtime. So guys, back to you. Let's talk about the situation in South Africa. Lionel, tell us, let's get real about what's going on. What is your take on the plight of small businesses right now?
What I've noticed, KG, is that businesses they're no longer trying to become this large corporate overnight. They're just trying to keep their doors open. Planning has moved from an 18-month projection to a month-to-month. And how do I get my salaries paid? How do I keep my costs lean? And if you don't have an accurate handle on this, and you haven't got any kind of data, as Sean referred to previously, on what's happening within the business, you're not knowing where the funds are going, and that could jeopardize keeping those doors open and keeping those salaries paid. I'm still a firm believer that Africa as a whole is a huge land of opportunity. Even amidst with whatever's going on now in the country with COVID and the lockdown and the economic effects which are still to come, there's still a lot that can be done. All
right. And are you feeling at this stage, if we have to just dig deeper into the subject, how would you rate the biggest problem that South African businesses are facing right now?
Well, I think the biggest problem is just cash flow, and it's management of that cash flow. Where can we get discounts for paying earlier with our suppliers? Who owes us what? How quickly can we get these funds in, and how quickly can we get our customers to purchase more? I think that's probably the biggest right now.
All right. And where's this, if we had to really look at this as a collective, if you look at the fact that small businesses as a whole, in general, are experiencing a great amount of difficulty in regards to managing cash flow and managing all of these associated problems, where do you feel like we might be in a few months from now if this continues? What are your projections on this plight and this problem of small businesses that we face?
Well, I think if you don't do anything now, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like I said, your doors are going to close. The markets have changed. Business has changed. Everything is going digital. You don't want to be that business that gets left behind. You don't want to be the one that's, tracking along on your old accounting package with Excel running in the background. That's not going to work for much longer. I'm not to say that it doesn't work right now. It might be working, but the more and more people are going toward that online presence, toward trying to get information when they see fit or when they're lying in bed at 9 o'clock at night watching Netflix, that's where you need to be as a business. B2C and B2B have moved completely to an online platform and going digital. So, I'd like to be bullish and say if you aren't considering it, you need to consider it. Digitizing and being digitally intelligent is what's going to put you ahead of the curve.
All right, so I'm hoping that we're going to have the opportunity to unpack that in a great amount of detail over the next little bit. A lot of advisors, a lot of people are giving us that advice. A lot of people are saying go digital, be a lot more digitally present, enable digital opportunities for customers. But I would like to unpack that a little bit more so we move away from just the heading and we really get into the nuts and bolts. What does that mean? What actions do we take? How do we spend the limited cash flow that we have as small businesses? So before we get into that, just to continue understanding or unpacking the sentiment here, I hate to ask this question, but have we hit rock bottom, or do you think that the worst is yet to come?
So I'm an eternal optimist. My definition of rock bottom, I think we've hit, and the only way is up. And sales, you can't be doom and gloom, and you can't be, oh my goodness, things are not going right, so don't know what to do. But what I have seen is the flattening of the curve has opened up some doors for us as a country. Level 2 is now, reignited some conversations where previously they were parked. We've seen that in our own business. Doors are opening, people are more receptive to the conversations around ERP, and they're getting over what I like to call is, the COVID PTSD. That's somewhat settled. And we're seeing businesses getting fast-tracked into the fourth industrial revolution. Everyone's been speaking about it, but, we've seen all the memes going around that everyone is talking about digital transformation, and this wrecking ball called COVID has now broken through the wall and forced businesses to that. So I think the main message here is to be smarter, faster, and automated. That's going to be the formula to successful businesses.
All right, so let's just unpack a little bit more about this fourth industrial revolution point. You did mention that a lot of companies were talking about it before. What has COVID done specifically in the area of small business? What has COVID done to get a lot of these businesses that were ticking along, doing well, owners were accumulating some nice cash flow, especially in that segment of the market that has been well performing. What has this whole COVID shock done in terms of plans to move digital?
Well, it's fast-tracked them entirely. Your customers for a long time weren't able to get to you or get to your business premises. So they were trying to obviously find another channel in which to do business with you or to explore your products and services. So if you're on digital and you don't exactly have any kind of online presence or an e-commerce setup, there was no way of them getting to you other than the old-fashioned telephone. But there's only so much you can do through telephone. People's working times have also changed somewhat with this COVID. So where generally they work from an 8 to 5, now things have become a lot more flexible. Yes, they're working from 8 to 5, but because the culture has been remote work, they don't mind jumping on and doing some emails at 7, 8, 10 o'clock at night, as well as, shopping around and looking for services. Just very much like our conversations happen, KG, at late evenings and banter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sadly have to agree with that line. I have to agree that, COVID has very much taken away or blurred the lines between work and home. And it has all amalgamated into one streaming stream that doesn't seem to have an end, where one starts and the other begins. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm not necessarily going to get into that just right this second. The thing that I want to just unpack a little bit more before we move on to Sean here is this concept of moving and going digital. We have seen a number of small businesses in our market that that's performed very, very successfully over the last little while, and then COVID hit. But these companies were not necessarily very digital friendly, and yet they were persisting, they were growing year on year, they were turning in more money. How do you see these business owners having to reframe their mindsets in order to embrace this post-COVID world? And could it be that this COVID situation perhaps made things a little bit, pushed people in the right direction? Just tell us a little bit more about breaking mindsets during this lockdown period.
Yeah, I think you need to be completely agile in your approach. Like I said, the markets have changed hugely. Yeah. People are no longer trading the way they traditionally did. They're no longer looking for services the way they used to. Things have become far more in reach of a website, or marketing has changed somewhat that you no longer can put a banner on a billboard or put some branding on a vehicle and expect to be noticed. You have to start thinking entire business strategy around going digital. How do I get some Facebook marketing done? How do I get some LinkedIn banners done? How do I get customers seeing my name more frequently whilst browsing social media? These are things that need to be considered from the marketing angle. And then from the sales side, the business owner needs to think, okay, well, how do I get my products to my customer? How do I get my customers to me without having to leave the safety of their home and risking getting COVID. And these are all factors that are going to influence business. And I can guarantee that if you as a small business owner do this, you are going to be ahead of the rest of the competition. Everyone is moving toward that direction. We were fortunate enough, we're a technology company. It was just a switch for us. We were able to go from office to home with very little impact. In sales, we didn't spend much time in the office to begin with anyway.
Right, interesting thought. So a note to the attendees, guys, again, please put your questions into the comment box, into the chat box, or into the Q&A box. It's either or is okay. And become part of this conversation. We're going to make this a very interesting dialogue right here. Sean is wondering at this stage, why am I on this webinar? I'm just here to nod and look good. So, Sean, we're going to put you to use at this point.
Maybe quickly, if I can, before you carry on.
Yeah, do it.
Just on the previous point, I think just to support what Lionel's saying, if we look at technology specifically, and our business, we have a team that handles this component. The companies that are doing the best are those that enable technology. So, technology businesses being whether it's your networking or your remote work businesses or e-commerce businesses, those businesses were thriving through these lockdowns. So the uptake, although it was a rock bottom scenario, the uptake by these companies was massive. And I mean, it's evidenced in things like Zoom as an example. Zoom went from a $5 million company to a $69 billion company. So that just tells you that there's trend and uptake in digitization. So, I think just to Lionel's point.
All right, so Sean,
interrupting.
You're not interrupting. So Sean, while we have you speaking here, tell us, is it in fact dangerous right now to operate without some kind of online ordering system, some kind of e-commerce platform?
Yeah, KG, for me, it's, if you don't do it, it doesn't exist. So in our business, we refer to it as opportunity or opportunity cost. And not having the channel means it doesn't exist for your business. So, I think one of the things that we've noticed is that the cost of enabling that channel or being online is significantly lower than it was years back. So, I think if you take that and you apply that now to small businesses, it's a tangible sales channel. It's a tangible way to get in touch with customers. So yes, I believe it's very dangerous not being online. And I think it's just a case of, if you compare the offline or the traditional sales channel with the online sales channel, a lot of businesses are already geared to handle what comes from those sales channels. Because I think again, I make not any assumptions, this is the feedback from our customers, is that, the infrastructure that they had in their businesses, whether it were the distribution of their product or, delivering to the end customer, those tools were already in place. So going online was the natural next step.
Right. I mean, the thing that I want to just also start delving into, there are attendees out there who are thinking, hold on, we don't sell vitamins. We don't sell something that's a tangible. We're not a B2C player. Why should we start migrating our ordering platform to online? We sell to other businesses. They are open during business hours. That's how we trade, and that's how we've done it for a while. Why should they be thinking differently if they need to?
So I think just on Lionel's point, we're all living different hours at the moment. So you want to have a situation where it doesn't matter what you sell. If that business owner is sitting watching Netflix at 9 in the evening, or that that partner of yours, and they think of you, you want to have an enablement there. So whether they pick their phone up, if they need to phone you during office hours to fulfill their order, there's a chance that you're not going to convert that sale. So by having online means if they roll over, grab their phone and go, I need this from them, that can be completed. So I think that's really the message.
All right.
Just to maybe expand on that somewhat, KG, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The thing is, what we're trying to enable in our business as well is a customer portal. So B2B, you want to be able to pull statements, you want to see statuses of accounts at a glance. A lot of the business planning happens at early hours of the morning, especially in the small business space. I know this, my father runs his own small business as well, and I think his strategy is built between the hours of 12 and 4 in the morning. And I've seen, with no disrespect to you, KG, I've seen a few mails come from you around about the 12 o'clock mark as well. So my only assumption could be that this is when a lot of the strategic planning happens for businesses. So if you need to dig deep into kind of customer statements or supplier statements, having that portal available to your customers and for your suppliers as well, just fast tracks the process. It makes the business experience for the end user a lot more pleasant, which ensures more business happens as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a comment that just come through right now, and I would like to just share it with you guys. And I think if nothing else, it just makes us all realize how real this problem is, and that this is why I'm actually going to read the next comment. It's to show that this is what we're discussing. It's not a theoretical concept, it's what people live. And this is the comment that we got, and it's from an anonymous on the call, who says that I have been unemployed since lockdown. Having no income, I had to start my own small business. I managed to secure a deal with a client to supply a specific product. The client did some research and began engaging directly with my supplier. My margins were low. As a small business, the struggle is real from a small business perspective. So folks, on that note, I mean, we don't necessarily have to go into too much depth, but, do you want to put some kind of response together to that comment on the basis of, why it's so important that even if we're going to be a small business, we have to look like a big business in terms of our online facilities. We can't leave the door open for someone to go to a supplier directly because we don't have the same facilities and online presence as the big bad supplier. Do you guys have any comment on that?
I think I want to actually bounce this one to Sean. I know that he closed the customer that was essentially a startup business that looked at SAP Business One and e-commerce. Sean, I don't know if you're happy to cover that detail.
Yeah, I must say I think it's a very difficult time. I think if that is the situation, in South Africa there's normally quite a lot of, I would say, community. People try and scratch each other's backs, as it were. So I'm not happy to hear that that's the experience of Anonymous in that case. But what I will say, I think to your point, I think to have a presence that represents what that customer is looking for, or the customer base that you've kind of gone after, or the market that you're trying to hit, that's what you've got to do. And I think, those that are winning in the situation, or those that are bouncing back, have made a plan and said, this is how I need to appeal to those customers to retain them, or to build that base, or to win the deals and keep winning the deals. So I think just in that case, having the online presence, it's not worth just switching it on and then hoping that it brings you sales. It needs to look and feel like you. It needs to look and feel like your goal, your business goal. And I think what we've seen with the customers, much to what Lionel's saying, those customers that have gone and set that plan and picked their segment in the market, yes, that one deal might have moved off to the supplier, but refining that channel based on what your business is going to do, that is going to bring the next deal and the next deal, and eventually the traction kicks in. So I would say stick at it, really, very much so.
Thanks for that, Sean. Lionel, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, so the user experience is what's also important. So like Sean has said, get your online identity in line with what you want to take to market. Not everyone is going to be shopping solely on price. Margins cannot be the only factor. Trust me, we know this better than anyone else. We're a premium product that doesn't come in, under the radar on price. We're used to selling against the cheaper alternative, and it's what value you're going to bring to your customer through that online engagement. Remember, it needs to be an experience. It's just like a first impression. If it's not a good first impression the first time they log onto your site, it's going to hurt you in business. So try and make it a pleasurable one, so that coming back is easier.
I really back that statement. Unfortunately, we live in a market today, and I'm just going to add my 2 cents to this. We live in a market today that is spoilt for choice, because it has become very much a buyer's market in the face of diminished disposable income. So we do have a situation where buyers are sitting at home over long periods of time. They have the choice of shopping digitally more than they have to in person, and so they can easily go ahead to a competitor who looks better online, who has a stronger digital presence. They may not necessarily have the back end as strong and as well organized as your business may be, but just on the front end, on the digital front end, they might appear to be better because they have a better website, a better e-commerce facility, better online communication, and because of that, they are perceived to be a stronger player. And that's the reality of today. So if we don't look good digitally and cosmetically, we will be in trouble. I want to just make one quick remark here from Devin on the call, who says, Lionel, you are 100% correct in saying that tech is the best way to advertise your product. I'm not going to go into too much more of that comment. Let me just keep going with the question here, Lionel. A lot of businesses are not spending right now because of fear, because of all of this discussion of fear and margins and no cash flow. A lot of businesses are not spending. Is it possible for a business to actually be worse off because of not spending? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I do believe that to a degree. You know, fear can be seen in many ways, and the way that I like to see it is you face everything and react. And that's exactly what they need to be doing right now. You know, the new normal is business digital transformation, B2B and B2C sales automation, you know, even the customer experience in being able to pull their own statements and do that whole online portal. You know, doesn't necessarily have to be a content management system, but to be able to access information when they need it. Everyone is now trying to be proactive, whereas predominantly in the past they were reactive. So the proactive approach, they're definitely going to be worse off if they're not adopting this. You know, they're going to get left behind. Being a late adopter, you know, you're putting your business at risk.
All right. So I'm just going to take a comment here or a question from Ingrid. This is a great clarification question on the subject of, you know, whether to invest or not. A lot of people believe that these type of intelligence-based systems, that they're very expensive and only financially feasible for large enterprises. Can you give comment?
You know, we've gone, like I said earlier, we've assisted startup businesses. We don't need this large capital outlay anymore. We've got subscription models available. We've even partnered with finance partners that, you know, it's private equity funding. So we no longer need to go to banks. That's an option as well. We've done a few deals like that. So we could really take it down to a monthly cost. And that monthly cost could be seen from anything from 3,000 to 5,000 Rand. With the power and the performance of a system like SAP Business One and an e-commerce platform, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 Rand on the potential earnings that you can get out of it, I can assure you they're going to be outweighed completely. You're going to see a huge return on investment on that 3 to 5.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you are mentioning numbers. And whilst I definitely don't want us to sound like this is now becoming an infomercial where we are selling product, I do feel like it's important for people to establish some kind of benchmark in order to go from a disorganized business to a business where things are beautifully organized, your inventory is tracked, your processes are well mapped, everything is posting directly into the financial engine or into the general ledger. I think the idea of getting those things right, we often as business leaders think that that's absolutely impossible to do on a small budget. And I think it's about us opening our minds to the possibility and the reality that these things are probably more affordable than we realize, and we just have to be willing to have a conversation. So definitely to the guys listening out there, I would definitely invite you to have that conversation. You know, put a note in your feedback to us that you would like to have a conversation, because these things are probably more within arm's length than we realize. And I can tell you, as a small business leader myself, I'm often backed off from these big systems because I think, oh my goodness, you know, it's way too much for me to think about right now. I've got other more pressing issues. And to Lionel's earlier point, if we realize that the insight that we are going to get and the order and structure that we're going to get from knowing exactly what our input costs are, knowing what our margins are, knowing what our inventory looks like, knowing what of the products are selling well and what we should be holding back on, you know, knowing all of those data points allows me to actually make a lot more money, and it's actually not going to cost a ton for me to be able to get that visibility and get that control of my business. So I really love that point. All right, let's move on. Sean, go ahead.
I think some of the feedback that we've been receiving in the last 2 months at least, you know, I think a lot of companies, a lot of people, a lot of small businesses, a lot of startups, it's a really good point raised there, that they think that you have to go with the entire solution and the whole hog round one. And I think, you know, we as a business have pivoted, and I think, you know, in the past, yes, we would have perhaps wanted to scope and spec and prepare better, but, you know, now we're looking at pieces at a time, you know, bite-sized chunks that work for businesses. And I think that's really what we need to start looking at. So, you know, I think if a business owner, small business or a startup, has a plan and they know what they want to go after first, we are completely ready to have that conversation and to advise what piece we can handle. And then from there build it up, and then on a really strong foundation. I think that's the message for me. Is, as Lionel pointed out, rock bottom's there now, and where do you build the foundation? At rock bottom.
Absolutely, I love those words, Sean. That's great. I wasn't sure whether Lionel was trying to say something.
Yeah, so just one last point there. In simple English, without Sean's sales flair there, is we can take the core business pain as a phase one, address that, and later build on the solution. Remember, this is a completely configurable solution. The same with the online e-commerce platform as well. We've got these templates in place. We've developed these templates as best of breed or best practice within the specific verticals that we play in, and these templates essentially get you what you need to start up on, and from there we can build the solution.
All right, so I really like that, and great summary. So guys, beautiful. I mean, I love it when there are providers out there who are willing to talk to the businesses who are only managing say the smaller budgets. I love it when I hear that there's a willingness to start small and grow with the organization. That to me implies longer term partnership. It implies a relationship based sale, not just trying to make a lot of money on one transaction right at the outset. It really does imply longer term relationship building, which is fantastic. So thanks for that message, guys. So, Sean, I know that Lionel made the joke about your sales flair. Do you want to go ahead and tell us about any kind of customer situation that stands out for you?
Look, without being too specific, I do say that even customers who are established, running larger solutions, business one solutions, have said that it's been a difficult time. I think we're talking about their pains, and I think they have experienced losses. The only difference is they've come back to us saying they were able to identify the losses, identify the pain areas, and focus on building from there. So, I think KG, I don't think I'll be too specific around which customers, but I think a lot of the names that I would be referring to, if I had to be specific, it's people we interact with every day, food that we eat, clothes that we wear, the businesses that supply these are the businesses that we deal with. And I think the big thing that was the trend throughout was, without having a solution in place to not only manage the back end, knowing what they needed to buy based on the cash flow that they had, but also what they could push to front end as often as they could, being their websites and the e-commerce. It was a differentiator, and I think we're very proud to say that. So that's how I would like to focus on that question.
All right, fantastic. I just have a comment here from Emilia. The approach for small business should be to address the pain points first and build from there. This needs to come through from ERP solution providers. It seems as though the perception out there keeps small business at the losing end. So that's a very interesting comment that, again, it seems that this discussion about ERP seems to be very much the large enterprise type of discussion, and ERP is not really a small business conversation. Lionel, do you want to comment briefly on that?
Yeah, so I think that's why we've got the approach that we have. We look at the core business pains, generally back office to start with, and getting invoices out and recovering the cash to the bank on those invoices is the start pain. So we address that first with either use of a template or understanding the business structure and implementing something on that, and then we build from there. So instead of having, like Sean referenced, to bite-sized chunks, we'll look at that small portion, we'll address that pain, we'll remedy it, and then we'll move on to kind of the nice to haves or the strategic side of the business on how do we grow that business, how do we grow that channel. I've got a customer that we took them from, I think it was a 4 million turnover business to a 40 million turnover business without increasing the admin staff. That's kind of the power behind having a system like this, is less people manage it, you generate more turnover, and you carry on ticking.
Absolutely. I got a funny comment here from Warwick. He says, I know this isn't an infomercial, but please let us have the identity of Sean and Lionel's business. So guys, this is Seidor Africa. If I haven't made it clear enough, my apologies. So we are talking to Lionel and Sean from Seidor Africa. All right, and definitely there's going to be the opportunity for you guys to do further engagement thereafter if you need. And on that note, let me just quickly remind you guys, we're very much in the heat of the discussion. We're very much not wrapped up at this right this second, but we will make the link available shortly. Imminently, Taryn will put it into the chat box, and you guys can click that link and start completing your surveys. Your surveys are critical to us. It allows us to build better shows and bring this content to you on an ongoing basis. So your surveys are critical for our future progress. So please make sure you complete them. That's our biggest appeal to you as our attendees. Okay, I see that the link has now been placed in the chat box, so please go have a look there while you listen to the rest of the discussion, and of course keep the comments coming. Now, I do have another question or comment put in by Anonymous. I'm not sure which Anonymous this one is. It says here, a foundational step to digital transformation is enabling big data, and what does this mean? So I just want to give an early comment before I hand this over to our speakers. You know, I think I'm going to move away from the terminology big data, because big data seems to be a buzzword. It's all about the use of data to make good decisions. But I think the concept is no less relevant in the area of small business. And one of the things we need to look at is the fact that we have to make data-driven decisions. Why do I stress data-driven decisions at a time like this? It's because we live in a market that is so sentiment driven. There's so much noise, hype, fear, uncertainty that people are making knee-jerk emotional decisions. And the only way to run a successful business, whether small or large, is to make decisions based on fact, not based on sentiment, not based on what the newspaper headlines are trying to conjure in us, but rather to base it on good quality observation of the numbers. What are the numbers telling us? Which of our products are doing well? What's doing not so great? What should we not be continuing to order? What should we be serving our customers with? What should we be pushing on our online marketing materials? All of that must come from data. So my advice or response to this, my knee-jerk, is that you have to have the right systems in place to track things, to furnish you as a leader with data. In the absence of that data, you can't make quality decisions. So you have to be a system-driven organization. There's no such thing as collecting this data manually anymore. So folks, I don't know whether you guys want to give it a shot and respond on your side.
Maybe just one brief statement is, you know, kind of looking any kind of functional system that's going to be in place, monitoring all these facts. As any business leader, you shouldn't be responsible for knowing how much stock to keep on hand, so you know, your cash flow is freed up if you need to make some decisions and move certain product in and out. You know, systems should be in place to forecast this data for you. This system should be tracking all of this information, so that it gives you and presents you a layer that you just make a decision on.
Absolutely.
All right. So on that note, Lionel, tell us, are customers more or less loyal at this point?
Okay, so I'm going to speak as our customers, because I don't know on the experience with everyone else's customers, but our customers are far more loyal, specifically because of our Seidor Group offering. You know, we've got a leading presence in the technology space. We've got sister companies that have, you know, put the client's needs at ease in transforming into this remote workspace. Having to change and taking the sales and servicing offering online, it's been an easier transition than they've anticipated. So that's just strengthened our relationships with our customers. It's got some good referrals in for us. So I think overall it hasn't impacted our business too greatly. It's actually maybe benefited our existing base. You know, we're now closer with our customers. We understand them better.
All right.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, I'm just agreeing. I think it's at an all-time high. In fact, you know, those that have made the change, or let's say taken the step in the past to have or to implement the backbone being their solution, you know, I think they relied on it heavily, and that's certainly the feedback we're getting, very much so. And that's just to the point from earlier in terms of customers' feedback and understanding what the pain points were in their established businesses with cash flow, with safety nets, you know, not necessarily in the same plight as the small business. You know, I think that their feedback is exactly that. They were able to make quick decisions data-driven decisions, and I think they look back at us now going, this partner enabled that. So yes, loyalty I think is there.
So I love this discussion on the subject of loyalty. Let me just challenge some of these notions just a little bit. Tell me, what do you think about someone who's sitting there on a couch, during call it a bit of the inertia effect after lockdown, we're still working the way we have over the last few months. What are your thoughts on someone who's sitting there looking for the best possible price, sees a provider out there who's offering that price, which is probably far lower than your price, and yet has a very extensive digital capability, so that person is able to make a purchase online, and they're paying a lower price, they're getting well serviced online, they don't have to conform to business hours, and in your case you have a higher price possibly, and you are not digitally enabled. Isn't there a likelihood that that person is going to be less loyal towards you?
Sure. It's a difficult point. I think, look, KG, I think just the point from earlier around, when anonymous one, shall we say, just sit around the supplier moving, or a direct relationship with the supplier. Again, I think how relevant you are, is your solution still fitting where that customer is in the market? Okay. If it is, and you are able to adapt to what their changes are as well, then I don't think that, whether the price is there at this point in time, yes, price is important, but it doesn't become the main issue. We've certainly had businesses that we deal with dip significantly in revenue, but again, to the point, they haven't gone and said, oh, I need to go and change my solution now to a cheaper solution in order to make headway here. And I think that's, strangely enough, as difficult as cash flow has been for so many small businesses, for so many people, we are still getting inquiries, significant inquiries, and decisions are still being made above the more, let's call it, the cheaper products. I'm trying to use my simple terminology, thanks to Lionel's highlight there earlier. So yes, look, just to put it in short, the cheapest solution doesn't always work the best. Okay, I play golf. A lot of people know me to do that, and if you get the right club, okay, that fits you, that's fitted for you, you get a better result. And I think a lot of people are buying in accordance with that these days. What fits their business? What should they spend that fits their business? All
right. So that's an interesting thought. I do feel like, just to wrap up that point, that this is a time where, to me, it's expected for loyalties to be tested. Because these are difficult times, and during difficult times, that's when any kind of loyalty is tested. And yes, there's always going to be the pool of people that stick with you, and then there's going to be the pool of people out there that say, hey, I'm being better served by someone else, so it's fair for me under difficult circumstances to move my business to another, because we're all facing the heat here, and I got to make the decision that's right for my people. And I think that where we do feel like we're getting customer loyalty, we need to return the favor to our customer by ensuring that they do have the best possible systems available to them. So it's not to ride the loyalty and say, hey, my customers are loyal, so I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. It's like, okay, good, my customers are in fact showing me a sense of loyalty, so I have a duty back to them. I've got to make sure that I'm giving them the same services and facilities that they could had they moved to my competitor. In fact, I want to even give them a better experience. I want to give them better online ordering capability. I want to give them better service hours. I want to give them the opportunity to work late at night if that's what they're most comfortable with. So I think that this is an interesting time and an interesting dimension, and it is still coming back to the fact that we got to serve our customers even better right now, especially when they're giving us their loyalty. Let's go on to okay, so Ingrid's put up a point here. Let's address the point. So cybercrime is on the increase. Now, how do we, what can we say that is going to give customers some kind of comfort that they can feel more comfortable that their data is safe during these difficult times when cybercrime is apparently on the rise?
I don't know who the question is directed at, KG, but I think it's all, you start at the foundation layer again. Without getting too technical, this data of yours needs to reside somewhere. It needs to live and be hosted somewhere, whether it's on premise in one of your own servers or out in the cloud with one of the partner data centers that we work with. these are some of the things that need to be considered when, looking at data security. My best advice is adopt what the market is doing. Look at hosting with a reputable business. So we've partnered with the likes of Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, even Huawei Cloud. These companies all have security measures in place that eliminate the kind of concerns around any ransomware or cyber crime. And then just partnering with a good managed services company or managed services partner, which could potentially be one that's in our group, being Seidor Networks, they could direct you on the correct way of setting up, for instance, a firewall or kind of MIME cost filters, all these things that play a huge part in that cybersecurity space.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to remind everyone out there that we have created this big, wonderful message around Unite for Small, and it is about giving small businesses tools and techniques and actual facilities to become successful and survive what we're going through. So we ourselves, as a team, we've created some partnerships to bring free offers, free training and free services to small businesses in the country related to surviving this next wave of difficulty and challenge, possibly in the form of cyber crime or cyber threats. So we've made a number of facilities available, and that's the bottom line. So I would say, as my tip to you guys, is to ensure that you stay in close touch with us, and you're receiving these gimmicks, and you're receiving these freebies, and you're receiving these little tips and to-dos along the way, because we do have a lot of big vendors who have come to the party with a number of actual tangible services that they are providing at no cost to small businesses right now in order to enable small businesses to survive this difficulty that we're getting through. So definitely stay in touch with us. On that note, please ensure you complete our survey. The link has been provided in the chat box, and in the link, or when you click the link, you can in fact state that you are looking for some kind of support, you're worried about security, you're worried about putting your data into external places. How can you receive some assistance and help to survive that? And again, we will have some closed group sessions over the coming weeks. We are going to be inviting people on a named basis to some closed group roundtables over the coming weeks. So stay in touch with us so that you do in fact get included in those sessions and you do receive an invite if applicable to you. On that note, let's go to Sean. Sean, tell us, why is it that a B2B business needs to be concerned about online ordering? I mean, I thought that this was purely something to do with consumers.
Yeah, so I think business to business it's a growing channel. We're seeing it. We're bringing in some large solutions, shall I say. Yes, still applicable to small business, but catering to bigger businesses because it's trust and self-sufficiency. So, what I mean by that is, if you've got a strong backbone and your product or your service is already in your ERP and can be exposed to a platform, okay, much like a web or e-commerce store, that relationship between you and your customers is exactly the same, if it makes sense. So they can go on, they can interact with not only your product, but your people, and that begins a trust relationship. And I think it's also that other channel of fulfillment. So you have your traditional sales channels, and you've got the customer who sits again at 9 o'clock at night, thanks Lionel for the reference every time, but wants to buy. He or she or whoever they are turns and says, it's important that I fulfill this thing now in my need. And that's exactly why a B2B channel helps do that. So whether it's 1% or 50%, it's more than zero. So yeah.
I think that's a very nice and clear response. There is the reality that people are not necessarily conforming to working hours anymore, and I think we also need to be aware of the fact that we are international players now, whether we like it or not. The moment we go online, we become an international player. COVID has made it easier for people to do business with international companies because we've all gone remote anyway. So it's important to also open yourself up to more markets by, in fact, having an e-commerce facility that is open globally. So I think that that's another important dimension that we need to start looking at. So Sean, we're not quite done with you on this point. Why then is it important for us to integrate that storefront on our website or our digital storefront, why is it important to integrate that ordering system with the back end? Why can't we just leave the back end fulfillment independently?
So I think, KG, we spoke a little bit earlier around going to another customer, or your customer moving to another supplier. Your back end is your supply chain. Your supply chain links to your front end, which is your e-commerce environment with your customer. And if that relationship is automated or links through, you deliver better, you can fulfill your commitments much better. So, I think you talked earlier about loyalty, so I'm not trying to overlap too much, but I think, if you want to maintain a high level of loyalty, you want to be able to deliver at 100% as often as possible. Happy customer, and that really is what the whole goal is to have one smooth chain that takes you from getting the product and giving it to your customer.
All right.
That's essential. Absolutely essential.
Sure. So tell me, would you ever see a scenario where it's acceptable to divorce the two, to say, hey, let me just run my online store, but then I have a ton of people on the back end trying to fulfill and do everything manually? Is that in any way acceptable?
No. Doesn't sound fun to me at all. But no, I'm going to say no. The trend itself teaches us that we've to date not, and I'd open it to your chat if anybody would like to say that they love doing that. By all means, but I certainly wouldn't say that's in my book, and the technology that I'm involved in is not cool.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Also, things are very, very competitive at the moment. Anonymous One told us clearly one of his customers went direct to his suppliers. So if you need to change something and have it replicate online as soon as possible, then being dependent for a physical body to update this online for you, you're gonna jeopardize losing some business if you can't do it immediately. So that maybe stresses the importance of having that back end integrated to that front end, so that things happen a lot faster, deliveries happen smoother, transaction throughput is a lot quicker.
Absolutely. So we have some interesting comments coming through here. The first thing that Emilia says is that a step-by-step guide to selecting a provider would be useful. What to look for in a provider. So here's my commitment back to you, Emilia. We will publish a document, an ebook at the website, which gives you the step-by-step guide. So that's my commitment back to you. After this webinar, we'll work on that and we'll make sure we get that out to you by next week. And then we have another suggestion here from Teresa, or question. How will your suggestions, and this is directed at our speakers, how will your suggestions regarding e-commerce automation be translated to a service delivery organization? Lionel.
So, I think really, we can look at it multiple. Depends what service delivery you're in, but scheduling is probably the biggest pain right now. And having your service technicians or field service agents, if you must, out in the field and being able to pick up their schedules on a fly, and if something is cancelled and changed, that it replicate back to a hub, being your back office system. We've got solutions in place at some of our customers for exactly those reasons. Again, it's fast tracking the engagement and removing the human element when it comes to management of either the schedules of the service technicians, what needs to be done on site, or even the booking of it. So a good example would be a dealer management system in the automotive space. Now you can log onto a portal, you book your service of your vehicle in online, you already address where there's damages on the vehicle. So when you go to booking the vehicle in for its service, they've got this report in front of them. They no longer have to do this. Therefore, the vehicle is an in and out process, which delivers a better experience and a faster service. So that's just one example. We could spend probably the next 2-3 hours going through multiple, but hoping that answers the question, Emilia.
Thanks for that, Lionel.
Apologies.
Sean, that was Teresa, yeah. Sean, did you want to say anything else beyond that, or I just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off?
Yeah, I just want to bring it down one quick step. Is just on the small business side of things. I think we've engaged with a lot of people that are providing services as small as a maintenance person coming to your home. So I think on that level of service. And for small businesses, those that are thinking, well, how do I apply to this? Go as small as you like, as small as your service might be. So, definitely can translate right through to that booking point that Lionel said. I'm backing the point to say exactly that. We mustn't think it's just on the scale of business and large service.
Absolutely. So, Sean, on that, while we have you talking about that point, can you just expand on that and just advise us, as small businesses, what would be the absolute bare minimum that we can get away with? Like, what would you advise that we do at the bare minimum level?
Businesses need to have a plan to carry on. What is the next thing that you need to do? Whether that is pay your suppliers, whether that is I need to fulfill this order by X date. That plan needs to be there. It needs to be the plan that has the next steps in place, and the plan must have what you will be relying on in order to complete that plan. So if it's a system, I need to make sure that I'm working with the right bank information, or it might be that I'm placing the invoices in the right place. What will my accountant or my auditor need to be working with? That really is the plan. And without being too technical, I think I refer to it as a continuity plan. So just to support them in knowing exactly what is lying ahead, because Lionel mentioned earlier, businesses are thinking month to month now. So have your month plan as your bare minimum.
All right. A note to the attendees. Please make sure that you complete the survey before you leave this call. We are going to be wrapping up in the next few minutes. We will end perfectly on time. You will find the link in the chat box. Please make sure you complete that before you leave. Let's look at a point made by Amelia here, that culture change, when it comes to adopting new technology, culture change in a remote work environment is challenging. So Amelia would like to comment on the fact that it is actually difficult for small business owners to ensure that their people are in fact using and adopting technology when we are going through this remote work scenario. So any comment from you guys on that, Lionel?
I think the adoption in South Africa specifically has been really good, and it's working well, especially around the online meetings, remote work. It's been embraced and successfully executed. I can't remember the last time I went to see a customer physically, and that's within the last 4 months. It's been some time, but yet we've had meeting after meeting, we've had scoping session after scoping session, we've closed a few deals. Things have carried on with the remote work. Customers are more receptive to the virtual space. They're welcoming it. Personally, I found it to be more effective. I don't have to account for travel time anymore. I'm producing different and better results, and it's going to be very difficult for me to go back to the way things were, if they do ever go back that way. I'm quite comfortable to jump on a call at 6, 7 o'clock in the evening now, because the wife and kids understand I now work from home. So it's an easier conversation to have. That balance is just what needs to be controlled, and you need to be mindful of it. Not to work all the time, but if there has to be a call at 7, there has to be a call at 7. If you're able to get things done at any given time, get it done.
Absolutely. And I just want to add to that point, and I think that if you are going to employ systems today, you're going to have to make sure that you should select systems that are in fact intuitive, that are easy to adopt, so that even on a remote work basis, that people are in fact able to learn quickly, even if they're not able to just call up a friend, they're able to just intuitively figure it out. And you should be selecting systems that come with the relevant amount of support and the relevant amount of training videos and tutorials. So you should in fact be selecting good quality systems. So I definitely want to add to what Lionel said there, and I think that beyond just the reality of remote work, we should be selecting systems right now that are in fact intuitive and come with a great amount of support to enable change in the remote workforce even easier. So on that note, guys, we are smack bang at 11. I want to thank you all for attending. Please make sure that you take a minute to complete our survey feedback forms. before you leave entirely, I want to thank our expert guests today. They've done a fantastic job in making things very practical, very simple. They've really brought home the message of the importance of online ordering and e-commerce presence, how to maintain loyalty with our customer base, how to navigate some small business challenges. This is all about keeping the small business discussion alive. I want to reiterate our commitment to give you resources and materials where possible at no charge, so that we keep forwarding the mission of small businesses and we help the plight of small businesses in South Africa. We are truly driven by that mission. Reach out to us if you need any kind of help. If you know of any business that needs support, or if you need any kind of advice or counsel, feel free to let us know through our surveys, and we will reach out and invite you to personal closed group sessions where necessary. Thank you so much again, and that's it for now.
Thank you.